Have you ever walked past a coffee shop with a massive line wrapping around the block, thought to yourself, wow, this place must be incredible, and immediately jumped in line, only to get inside and find half the tables completely empty? No, they are not short on staff. You did not just stumble upon a hidden gem. You just got played. You were completely manipulated. Nightclubs in New York and Los Angeles are famous for this. They intentionally make people wait outside in the freezing cold. Why? To create a fake sense of exclusivity. If everyone can get in, nobody wants to. If there is a line, everyone craves it. Modern coffee shops and online brands are using this exact same dirty trick on you every single day. Let me tell you a secret before we dive into the dirty mechanics of this psychological trap. By the end of our chat today, I am going to reveal a specific technique. It's a subtle trick used by top-tier creators and entrepreneurs to make people wait in a psychological line for their products before they even launch. If you master this one thing, you can apply it to your business, your social media, or even your daily interactions to instantly boost your perceived value. So stick with me, because the final piece of the puzzle changes everything. But first, let me be totally honest with you. I am not standing on a high horse here. I am the king of falling for this stuff. I'm usually the guy who thinks he's too smart to be fooled, which makes it 10 times funnier when I actually get fooled. A few months ago, I was traveling. I saw this tiny, trendy bakery. The line was ridiculous. It looked like people were waiting for a life-saving vaccine. There was a guy in front of me wearing a suit, sweating through his shirt, checking his watch every 2 minutes, but he refused to leave. I thought, man, if this guy is risking a corporate demotion for a pastry, this thing must taste like heaven. I waited for 45 minutes. My feet were throbbing. My stomach was growling. I finally got inside. The display case looked totally normal. I bought a plain croissant. It cost me $8. $8. I took a bite. It was dry. It tasted like cardboard. It tasted like regret. I looked around, and the seating area inside was practically empty. They had 2 registers, but only one girl was working, and she was moving like a sloth on tranquilizers. She was literally chatting about her weekend while 20 people were melting outside in the heat. I stood there chewing my dry cardboard pastry, feeling like absolute garbage. I realized I had just paid $8 to participate in a human experiment, and I failed miserably. I was angry at the shop, but mostly I was angry at my own brain. Why do we do this to ourselves? Let's break down the human brain for a second. Our brains are incredibly lazy. They hate doing hard work. They hate analyzing data. Instead, the brain uses shortcuts. Think back to the primitive days. Imagine you're a caveman. You're walking around looking for berries. Suddenly, you see a group of 10 people from your tribe running at full speed toward the east. What do? Do you sit down, cross your legs, and analyze the soil conditions? Do you weigh the pros and cons of running east versus running west? No, you run. You run for your life, because if you don't run, you get eaten by a saber-toothed tiger. The people who stopped to analyze things back then did not survive. The people who followed the crowd lived to pass on their genes. Today, we don't have saber-toothed tigers, but we still have that exact same caveman brain. When your brain sees a crowd of 20 people waiting in line, it doesn't think, oh, maybe their cashier is just incompetent. No, your brain automatically fires a loud signal, hey, look over there. There's a high-value resource in that spot. Go get it now. It's safe. It's beneficial. If you don't grab it, you lose. This is basic herd mentality. It's a survival mechanism that has completely mutated into a shopping habit. There's another powerful psychological monster at play here. It's called loss aversion. Psychologists have proven that humans hate losing something twice as much as they enjoy gaining something. We're absolutely terrified of missing out. We call it FOMO. When you see that long line, your brain doesn't just see a line. It sees a ticking clock. It triggers a deep, painful fear. What if everybody else knows a secret that I don't know? If I don't join this line, I'll be left behind. I'll be the only idiot who didn't experience this amazing thing. You don't even want the coffee, you just want to avoid the painful feeling of being left out of the tribe. And here's where the trap gets truly sinister. It's a concept called perceived value through barriers. If something is too easy to get, your brain instantly assumes it's cheap and worthless. If you walk into a cafe, walk straight to the counter and get your latte in 30 seconds, you think, okay, that was just basic fuel. But if a brand forces you to pay a price using your valuable time, everything changes. The act of waiting elevates that regular latte into a trophy. It becomes a reward. You didn't just buy a drink, you conquered a challenge to earn that drink. Think about how insane this is. When someone accepts a 20-minute wait for a drink, their brain goes through a weird gymnastics routine to justify the struggle. It says, look, I'm a smart person. I would never waste 20 minutes of my life for a mediocre coffee. Therefore, because I've been standing here forever, this coffee absolutely must be the greatest thing on earth. We literally brainwash ourselves to protect our own ego. Smart business owners know this inside out. They use 3 specific rules to manipulate us, and they do it with a straight face. The first rule is creating artificial scarcity. In business, your actual capacity to serve people doesn't matter nearly as much as your visual presence. Having 10 empty tables inside your shop does absolutely nothing to attract a random person walking down the street, but having 10 human bodies crammed together on the sidewalk catches every eye. So, what do clever owners do? They intentionally create a bottleneck. They put the cash register right at the front window. They make the entrance narrow. They instruct the staff to take their time, to have long conversations with customers during the order process, to explain every single detail of the menu. They purposefully slow down the front end so that a crowd forms exactly where the public can see it. It's pure theater. The second rule is transforming your customers into living billboards. Most traditional businesses spend thousands of dollars on Facebook ads, Instagram influencers, or giant billboards on the highway. But the master manipulators don't spend a dime on that. They use your actual physical body to advertise their business to the next guy. Think about it. A long line of real people is the most honest, high-converting billboard a business could ever ask for. It costs the owner nothing. In fact, the customers are paying the owner for the privilege of standing outside and acting as a live commercial for the brand. It's brilliant, and it's totally evil. The third rule is the sunk cost fallacy. This is the ultimate trap that locks you into the line once you make the mistake of joining it. Imagine you've been standing in a line for 15 minutes. You look ahead and there are still 10 people in front of you. You're tired, your phone battery is low, you want to leave, but a voice in your head whispers, "No way. If you leave now, you just wasted 15 minutes for absolutely nothing. You've already invested too much. You have to see this through to the end." So you stay. You wait another 15 minutes. And here is the craziest part. Once you finally get inside and get your food, you will actually convince yourself that it tastes amazing, even if it is completely average. Your brain will literally distort your sense of taste to match the effort you put in. You will take a sip and say, "Wow, totally worth the wait," because admitting you wasted 30 minutes for a bad cup of coffee is too painful for your ego to handle. But listen carefully. There is a huge catch here. If you're a business owner or a content creator thinking about using this technique, you need to understand that this is a dangerous game. If you do it wrong, you will destroy your reputation overnight. There are 3 massive mistakes people make when they try to copy this strategy. The first mistake is believing that simply being slow will make you popular. Let me clarify this right now. Customers only tolerate a line if they genuinely believe the prize at the end is worth it. The core product, your brand identity, and the actual experience must be solid. If your coffee tastes like battery acid, or if your videos are incredibly boring, Forcing people to wait will just make them furious. It will trigger a massive wave of public backlash. Fake social proof is just an accelerator. It is never the foundation. If you try to fake a crowd when your product is trash, you're just accelerating your own funeral. The second mistake is confusing a calculated bottleneck with completely trash operations. High-level operators are very specific about where they slow things down. They slow down the initial contact, the order process, the place where people are visible. But the moment the customer steps past that bottleneck, the internal delivery system must be flawless. Once the customer sits down, the food needs to arrive fast, the service needs to be incredibly smooth, and the environment needs to feel great. If you make the customer wait outside for 20 minutes and then make them wait another 20 minutes at their table for a cold drink, you are not a psychological genius. You just run a terrible business, and you're committing commercial suicide. The third mistake is blindly applying this trick to every single type of customer. This strategy is a specialized tool. It works incredibly well with young people, with tourists, or with trendy products where the entire point of buying it is to take a photo and show off on social media. It works when the experience is the product. But if your main target audience is busy office workers who need a quick shot of caffeine before a high-stress meeting, or busy entrepreneurs trying to close a deal, a long line will not attract them. It will scare them away instantly. They'll look at that line, say, "No way," and run straight to your competitor who has an automated kiosk. You must know exactly who you're serving. So, how do we actually apply these psychological insights in the real world? Whether we're building a business, creating digital content, or just trying to understand human behavior, we can turn these insights into 3 distinct actions. The first action is designing a visual bottleneck. If you're building a physical space, you put the action, the energy, and the waiting area right out in front where it can be seen. But what if you're making content online, like a YouTube video? You can create a psychological bottleneck. Instead of dumping all your best information, your main answers, or your big reveals in the first 30 seconds of your video, you hold them back. You create a cue in the viewer's mind. You tell them what's coming, you build the anticipation, and you make them wait for the core value until the middle or the end of the video. You create a mental traffic jam that keeps their attention locked on the screen. The second action is always displaying a crowd before you ever open your doors. Never launch a product, a service, or a project into an empty stadium. It looks desperate. Before you officially release anything to the public, create a small exclusive group. Gather your top supporters, your most loyal followers, or a few beta testers. Get them inside a private community. Get them talking, asking questions, and expressing excitement. Then you take screenshots of that real buzz. You show those messages to the wider world. You let everyone see that a crowd is already gathering at your door before you even unlock it. You show the world that a line has already formed, and that naturally forces everyone else to want to get in. The third action is measuring and controlling the frustration threshold of your audience. The absolute masterclass of this strategy is knowing exactly how long you can make someone wait before they snap. While people are waiting in your line, whether it's a physical line or a digital countdown, you must weave in elements that soothe their anxiety. If they're outside your shop, have a friendly staff member pass out beautiful menus to read or hand out small cups of free iced tea. If they're waiting for a digital product launch or watching a long video, keep them entertained with high-value storytelling while they wait for the main event. The true art is making them wait just long enough to raise the perceived value, but never making them feel abandoned or ignored. At the beginning of our conversation, I promised to share a secret technique used by the world's most successful creators and entrepreneurs to make people wait in a psychological line before a launch. Here it is. It's the strategy of the information gap combined with private access. When you're preparing to launch something new, don't just talk about what it is. Talk about the specific, painful problem it solves, and then show a tiny, exclusive glimpse of the results. You tell your audience, "I've been working on a system that completely solves this problem. I'm only letting 50 people try it next week to make sure it works perfectly before the main release." What happens? You instantly trigger their caveman brain. You create artificial scarcity because there are only 50 spots. You trigger loss aversion because they're terrified of missing out on the solution. And you build an intense visual bottleneck as hundreds of people start commenting and begging for an invite in public view. You create a massive, roaring line of eager customers before your product is even completely finished. And that's the real power of psychology. Once you understand how the human brain works, you stop being the person who mindlessly stands in the cold for a dry $8 pastry. Instead, you become the person who gracefully, ethically, and strategically builds the line.